forgot to hit record.
Okay. Good. So my colleagues can not be in the actual recording.
All right. Then this is going to be brief. So we had one transaction since the last meeting, and that was payment for taxes. That was $410. So our current balance is $31,684.89. I need to check with Esri to find out for sure if the site license is going to change cost. I don't believe it's going to change for us because it hasn't for a couple years, which worries me to say that I hope it's not going to change. And so I need to reach out to them. But as of right now, the plan is to continue on at that current 60,500 value and then break down as it was previously. Any questions in regards to anything? All right, easy enough.
All right. Thanks for that, Josh. So stepping down to item 4 here, talking about kind of a membership list. So as we've been gearing up for ITAG here, and I was looking through the list of mailers that we send out during our ITAG conference, I noticed it seems to me it has not been updated recently. And with some other initiatives that Nicole Shippers and Ben and myself are kind of trying to start to lead and take on. Having an updated membership list would be good. So I shared with the board an Excel file I've been working on for a number of months now, leveraging the connections within on LinkedIn and just scraping through every county website, every COG website. I know I'm missing a lot from the state level. I think I've hit all the city people. I'm kind of building out this list both to mail them a card, but also to make sure that we can get them an email of our salary survey. To me, a challenge is, especially on the private side, and trying to understand where all the private GIS folks are, who maybe work a lot in the state that don't live in the state, or conversely, who do work in the state for a consulting company. I kind of listed some down at the bottom. I know I'm missing like Ben McConville and Evan, who used to be at Waukee. Like those people I don't have on the list, but like here's a good solid base of somewhere around 250 people that I've identified. If you notice here as Josh is scrolling down of just the orange areas, that's just kind of missing stuff. And my hope here in my ask is, especially with the board, but anybody else who wants to help to kind of update this list here in the next, ideally probably 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks would be great. I know there's a lot I can fill in from the city side with some of those emails, but this is what I want to make sure we reach out to, and as a good reflection for IGIC as the professional community within the state of Iowa, making sure we reach out to these members and we invite them to the things that we're working on. So I'm open for any discussion, any comments on this. Is there anybody that really wants to help bite a big portion of this off with me or take ownership of it? I do know there's a lot, especially like Lynn County and Cedar Rapids, like I have only just a GIS at whatever email address. So stepping through all of that, that's what I'm going to lean on you all, the board in particular, for that information. Adam Shell with the IODT is willing to help out on the DOT side and take care of all that staff. So, yeah. So, any questions, comments, anything else? Is there anybody that wants to help on this?
I mean, I can help however I can. Finding GIS contacts is hard.
Yeah.
I think the big area we really need help in is private and utilities. Those are the areas I think we struggle to know who those people are the most.
Mhm.
So I don't know if there's anybody in this chat who's in that field and has connections and knows people that might be able to help us, or
Yeah. I mean, we have Asmic. I'm probably butchering that. Apologies. But from like Iowa American Water, I'm not even sure if you're on this list. A lot of this was curated through going through, I don't know, 25 pages on my LinkedIn, um, trying to get that scored away. And we also have like Sunshine, who's with, Lynn County Rural Electric Cooperative. Um, so I think for us, it's, I guess my charge with the group holistically is kind of nudge and kind of figure out what's that, but also help me verify this information, verify yourselves and others to make sure I have it correct. That's
So
my ask.
I have, from when we asked people for their organization and their positions back in 2019,
Yeah.
we sent that to the email list, and um, whenever anybody gets added to the list, they fill out those terms also. So I have that list. Um, so it'd be name, org, position, email. But if somebody changes positions, it doesn't get updated unless somebody says something. Um, so I at least have that information. If somebody wants to plug all that into that document as well, then that's fine. But it could be, some of it could very well be out of date. I don't have, addresses or anything like that. But
Yeah. I try to put a GRS URL, at least of a landing page to help to kind of track some of that too, as people maybe phase in or phase out. Um, it's just, to me, it's just more of it's also a fascinating list to see where people are at and the groups, because we have a large contingent of people there. Um, So, and I know I'm getting a few other side chats as well of other updates to this list. So what I will do here is I will make it as a whatever, a OneDrive list and send that out as a link so everybody can kind of edit and update that back to the board here. And we do some checks and process through outside of this meeting here over the next couple weeks, and we can put in the other information. So,
Greg, this is Chris. You could also potentially data mine the GISCI website. They've got a registry. You can pull a spreadsheet for all the GISPs in the state.
oh, that's a really good idea, Chris. I've not done that. Okay. Oh, perfect.
I can drop a link in the chat to that website.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Chris. Okay. Any other discussion, comments, questions on that? All right. Hearing none, we'll go ahead here and step down to the IGIC salary survey. So we have a couple friends from the north here. I reached out to them, I don't know, a week or two ago. Sorry, I didn't email you back, Randall. And I've been fascinated by their salary survey they have done for a number of years. And watching that growth, they've had some excellent participation, and with that they have, and as Josh is pulling up the link here of the kind of the summary results of it, they have a very verbose survey with a lot of great details with it. Um, and the goal of this is to just get a baseline, an understanding of how does it face throughout the entire state, and particularly for what's the kind of general growth of the salary, how do different titles pay, what's the ranges on different skill sets people have, what's the value of a GISP, what's the value of having a master's degree. So from our educator and our education committee having these details and this information, to also just all of us as we look and have discussions of wages and benefits and salary, that whole piece. I had mentioned in the at ITAG this year a little bit about this, and in some other conversations, and generally there's been a lot of favorable excitement for it. So I have taken, I asked for permission and have used their survey and kind of pared it down just a little bit, a few less demographic questions for our first run here, but to really start to get a gauge of it. I had shared a link with the salary survey as a survey 123 to the board for them to kind of look at and review. The goal is to kind of make a report somewhat similar to this, maybe not as in depth as this, but just to help to understand the global landscape of GIS here in Iowa. And particularly, I'm not asking for zip codes because I really want to try to be a little more anonymous with this data, the best of our ability. I do like the map though, so weighing the privacy concerns and trying to get participation. So, Josh, do you have the link available?
I don't know
Yeah.
the answer to this question, but I'm
Mhm.
sure you do, Greg. Are city salaries public information?
City salaries, well, any taxpayer organization, it is public. So yes, now whether how published in air quotes it is, that's the other story. You know, anybody can do a freedom of information request and ask, what is that person getting paid? So stepping through this survey, it follows almost identical to what Minnesota has. They spent a lot of energy into it. And I want to honor that. I did ask, and I want to highlight this: the primary office regional location. I made one for the state of Iowa, and this is based on more demographics than anything. So the Northwest, Northeast, and South are about 500 to 570,000 in population total for those three buckets. They are in a very limited growth or a slow decline areas versus the Metro and East Central are both about 800,000 and in growing. They're about 750, 800,000. And so I'm trying to make sure that these buckets here are also work for the state as well. And now as I look at the survey, I need to add a spot if you're outside the state. So that's where those 5 areas came from. And that's how I generated them. They're based on demographics to understand not so much a county by county weight. We did highlight, I restructured the work remotely question to just be like, do you work remotely? And so, Josh, if you click on yes, then it will bring up a slider and just say, hey, you know, how many days do you work remotely? Minnesota did a lot of work on, you know, especially during COVID, what does that look like? And so helping to kind of gauge what is our remote here. I also framed kind of the next questions 6 through 10 here of like, what are your rough duties? Because we have a lot of IT GIS coordinators or managers or directors here in the state as well. So, you know, how much do you actually use GIS? You know, what do you do in computer programming, analyzing that's aspect is. Cedar Rapids has a GIS programmer. Responsibility with enterprise software. A lot of us handle asset management, ArcGIS Enterprise, document management, and then, you know, creating or maintaining GIS there. This is, you know, more tailored to the GIS technician, but a lot of us also build out a ton of data as well. So kind of getting these samples. And then the next page is all just, okay, what is your salary? You know, are you paid hourly or annually? And a few quick questions. I don't think it's going to let you go because you didn't answer some questions, but one person already took it. Yeah. So I have it pretty close to, you know, working here. So you can do by hour or annually. You know, is it full-time, part-time, seasonal, temporary? What's your age? What's your education level? You know, have you done or received any of these? A GS certificate or a, you know, undergrad, a graduate, you know, any training, whether it's Esri-led or something else. And then how much experience do you have? And you know, GISP has been a big hot topic. You know, yes, not active, no, but working on it. And then lastly, anything else you want to add? So this is what I'm proposing here for us to kind of use as a base. I'm open to other suggestions, other tweaks. But this is what I want to follow up after that membership list kind of gets a little more solidified as our second kind of punch here. So I'll open it up here for any discussion, any questions, comments.
I think it's a good idea.
And I think
And
it's
for,
a great sheet. The layout is wonderful. Questions are good. Nice job.
thank you. Yeah, and like Anya, like there's questions too for professors or teachers. You know, that's actually on the first page too, helping understand what does our holistic group look like too, and how do we interact. And this is, you know, I want this to be for anybody and everybody, who whether they use GIS 25% of their time to 100% of the time. There may be some engineers or some planners as well at cities that are very GIS heavy but aren't labeled as a GIS person. I want to make sure that, you know, that we can help to kind of cull that through as well. And these questions are framing to help to do some cool data analysis with. And I can't thank the friends from the north, Randall, and I forget who the other one was, John. You know, for their team, they have a subcommittee that professional development team that worked on this and continue to curate this, and they're going to launch one as well this year. Timeline to be determined, but sometime this spring, as I sounded like March possibly. So. Any other questions, comments?
I have not had a chance. This is Patrick. I have not had a chance to actually look at this. One thing that might be helpful is I know there are a lot of state employees and even possibly city employees and county employees where there is not a job classification that's specific to GIS. So that's different than number one there. That describes your role. So I have a classification role or a classification, job classification type, and then I have a working title. And those are two very different things. And I know at the state level, we have at times talked about getting a specific GIS classification, but GIS people in the state at least can come under where maybe 100% of the role is GIS related. It might come under an IT classification, might come under a geologist, might come under a planner. There are various job classifications that person might come under. So that might be a good idea to include something like that.
Okay, so we can or tweak this question to be like, okay, what do you feel your working title is? And say a GIS intern is here are these brief example, or a technician mainly does this. Would that?
I'm not sure that
Or-
captures it either.
Okay.
I think that's fine. The question, which of the following best describes your job position, but then you actually have a classification where it's an official classification. So my official classification is actually an ITS 5, even though my working title is best under here as GIS manager or GIS coordinator.
Okay.
I think that actually adds some value. I mean, I don't know what the actual goals of this salary survey are, except for transparency and but a way that somebody could utilize this, internally is, looking at pay equity internally, but also is there an actual need? We have 100 state employees or 200 state employees that may be 100% GIS full time, across 10 different classifications.
Yeah. And Patrick, do you have do you have an idea of where all those people are at then at the state level? Because that's one area I know in my last list, membership wise, it's not quite as much depth there. And is it
No, not necessarily. I mean, in general, yes, I do. And I don't necessarily have the time to go through and create this list of stuff.
understand?
But I can definitely give you some insight.
I mean, could we just add a question that's simply, do you have, outside of your title, do you have a job classification, yes or no? If they say yes, open up another section that says, what is it? And they could just fill it in.
I would just put it as a second question. Don't ask it. Just don't ask a second question and get a third question. Just ask a second question.
Yeah. Okay. And as John is here putting in the chat, like the goals for the Minnesota crew is number one overall is to promote transparency, to provide the GS professionals with a resource when negotiating pay to understand, and help our new and inspiring GS pros understand what their salary could look like as they start their careers. And
Thanks.
Thanks, Patrick. No, appreciate it. I think I'll look at adding that second question here, trying to ask that more of an official classification, and then add a little more clarity on, okay, what maybe we'll pare this down of what is your best describe your job position, because it's straight out of the Minnesota, and we'll make a slight tweak there. That also help us to look at what other kind of titles or things that official classifications float around for different people.
Yeah, and I think that asking that question, not just your working title or your job position, which I think is great, because that's actually what you're doing. But if the goal is transparency and equity and things like that, then knowing that classification helps in that. Because I know there may be people who are doing similar jobs and effectively the same amount of work, but because of their classification are getting very different types of pay.
And my title's a GS technician, but I operate as the coordinator. So I'm in this sticky widget per se here too.
Right. And that's exactly why I think that question is important.
Okay.
This is Randall. So I just did a quick look here. I pulled up LinkedIn, search for Iowa, and then pulled up people who list the Iowa Department of Natural Resources. And you see what people have listed there. You have things like geologist 3 and GIS analyst, geospatial administrator, environmental specialist. So I think what you see just there is, yeah, people are using what they would describe their position as, and others are using what their official classifications really are. So I think it's a good point that delving into, especially if you have a lot of state people, but delving into what is your classification in addition to what you describe.
Are there any other questions, comments? Okay. Hearing none. We'll go ahead here and move down to the conference survey with Nicole.
So this won't be nearly as exciting as Greg's. This is an idea that's been floated around a lot. One thing we've noticed at ITAG is there seems to be a lot less GIS people than IT people that attend, and we'd like to flip the script or at least make it even. And so we're really looking at the idea of doing a survey to understand if people do go to the conference, what is it that they go for? And if they don't go, why? What is it that we're missing from the conference that you're looking for that's not being provided? And this is playing more into, I think most people here know, but just in case, 2024 is the last year that we're at the Marriott. 2025, we're in a new location. It's opening up more opportunities for us, and it's going to give us a chance to make some changes and redesign the conference in a way that works for both IT and GIS folks. And so we want to do a survey to understand what people's needs or wants are out of that conference. I know there is a survey that comes out at the end of the conference that asks specifically about that one conference, but we're really looking at ITAG as a whole, not as each year individually. So I don't know what people's feelings would be on that. I know we're talking about a lot of surveys, and people are probably starting to groan thinking about all the surveys they're going to have to fill out. But it feels like something we kind of lack, and it's hard to go forward without information. And so you can't make decisions if you don't know what people want or need. So I don't know what people are thinking or feeling about that, or if anyone would want to help try and design what a survey like that would look like. This will kind of lead into one of the discussions we had when we were looking at for the new venue, was setting up a committee that had people from both IGIC and ICIT, kind of like a future of ITAG committee, and help design the new ITAG. And what would it look like? What would our schedules look like? Would there be more? Would there be less? Would there be 5 to 10 minute breaks in between each session? All kinds of different things, and it may lead into that. That's still a discussion that we have to have, and see if we want to set up kind of a joint task force, so to speak. So I don't know.
I look at this survey and this data as to be for the people who have not attended, are like what would get you to attend. But this is all to kind of, as Nicole was mentioning, there is kind of more the visioning process, the GIS side of this conference. Do we do an engineering and GIS summit where we focus on all the civil engineers of maybe a lot of cities and counties too, and be like, how can we, here's the information on doing CAD to GIS, or microstation processing and getting it squared away from GIS data, making that as part of our conference, and bringing GIS adjacent folks to experience things, to have it as a resource. um, and maybe, Amy Logan's kind of mentioned it too. And with our education committee, maybe we do a K through 12, one day in the summer, come learn about GIS, use as a tool, or maybe it's some of the professors, an education summit. Like, these are the things, these are the ideas, that we want to help to tease out from the organization to make sure we're meeting everybody's members, meeting everybody.
No thoughts, feelings, or opinions from the crowd?
I always have thoughts and feelings. I was pausing for a minute. I just sort of anecdotally, I think one of the things is when we did shift from doing an independent conference to a joint conference is the perception that this was a county only thing. And that is going to be really, really hard to break free of that. And I'm not sure how to do that, but that is what I have heard from as attendance has sort of slipped in the GIS realm of things of what is the value for me to attend ITAG? Isn't that county government? And we all know that that is not the case, but that is, I think, some of the perception that we're running up against. One of the things I was going to hold off until my state report to do this, but it might be a challenge for everybody, is two things. One would be to start a presentation and be willing, if you are on the board, be willing to present at ITAG to show the depth of and breadth of what ITAG is as a conference, but also highlighting what IGIC is. And that's kind of a challenge. I think anybody who is sitting on this board has something that they can present, at some level, whether that be, a novice level, showing another city or another county something new that they maybe have not had the opportunity to explore or they are curious about. Or even another city or another state employee. And that's kind of on my goal this year, is to try to increase the number of state employees that attend, because I know that is an area that has dropped tremendously since we've done this switch. And then the other side of that is you could practice your presentation for ITAG is also presenting at Magic, developing a presentation and going a Magic. Do this as a 2-for-1. And develop a presentation for Magic, which sort of same sort of situation of, I think anybody who sits on the board has some talent, has some knowledge that could be shared. I think that goes along with the objectives of why we're doing the salary survey, and things like that, is to try to share your knowledge. But develop something for Magic, do that same presentation at ITAG. There are plenty of people who are not going to be able to attend Magic, but may be able to do ITAG.
Right. And I appreciate what you say, Patrick. I've heard that too, that it has a viewpoint that it's a county thing. And I wonder if some of that comes from, it seems like a lot of county folks are the ones who are working the conference and working on the committee, and we need more people who aren't county on the committee and see those faces. And that's something I'll speak just from my personal perspective. Last year, I headed up the education committee. I think I'm doing it again this year. I'll find out tomorrow, I guess. And it was a real struggle to get presenters. And I think that's the big thing, in county government, we don't do a ton with utilities. And so we don't get a lot of presentations on utilities or asset management or any of those things that private or state might be more interested in. And I think the only way to get more of that is to get more of those people coming and willing to do presentations on that stuff. And if there's things that we can do and help gear stuff towards that, we have the pre-conference training that happens every year. Is there something we could look at trying to get pre-conference training on that might draw in some more of those folks. And I don't have the answers to that stuff. I need insight and thoughts and stuff from others. I can help track people down, but
Yeah, I agree. You know, and I think it's one of those things too, that if you intend to get, or if you currently have an active GISP, it's an easy way to get those points doing this. And you know, to participate in a state conference. So there's another plus on that.
Yeah, if the GISP folks could push GIS organizations, whether it be IGIC, MAGIC, um, inform their people of that. If we could get other organizations GIS related to kind of advertise for us. And another thing, I know there are a lot of new GIS county folk, coordinators and staff members at the county, and I wonder. I know that I really pushed conference attendance with my replacement, but I'm not sure everybody does, and maybe that's an area of outreach that needs to be explored.
I agree, Penny, and I'm looking at it from the city side as well, and talking to other Des Moines metro cities of, you know, what would you like to see, you know, what would get you to attend, you know, like the city of Des Moines, the city of West Des Moines, you know, some of the GIS leaders in the metro, like come share, but also looking statewide too, especially like, you know, Lynn County, Cedar Rapids, you know, Iowa City, that area as well.
How do we reach out to people and let them know about it? Is it just members of IGIC? Let them know that we have this conference.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the things we've talked about today will all kind of help to overlap, you know, reaching out and be like, hey, here's a salary survey. Hey, you know, let's targeting that membership list. And then, but also, you know, to the whole of looking at that conference survey, like what do you want to come and attend? You know, what would get you to do that? But for a lot of us too, it's just, you know, reaching out, you know, to our respective areas or communities. I didn't know until
Add some fun photos to the to any information that you send out. Hey, this is our conference. People having a good time. It is really a blast.
so we definitely need one then of you with all of the knitted items, the knitted ghosts.
I'm sure there's photos.
Hey, is there other things we can do too? Because we keep talking about like presentations, but can we maybe think outside the box that maybe like we do something besides just presentations? Because like I think quality over quantity can be a big thing too. So maybe like we have a room now in the new place we're having. We're like, hey, we're gonna have a city displaying their web map or something, and people could kind of come in and learn or something like, try to think outside the box besides just presentations.
One thing
right.
that
And we can, and sorry to interrupt you, Greg. But one thing I also want to point out is one of the big comments we get too is that there's too many vendor presentations. It's hard to fix that if people who aren't vendors aren't willing to present. So it's one of those you can't have have it both ways. But we do want to do more things outside of just presentations as well. And we will have some extra space to do some of that stuff in, but it's still hard to find people. Even talking about those things, finding a city or someone willing to take their time and sit in a room and show something specific is very similar to them taking the time and willingness to do a presentation.
I was thinking like if you do something where it's more of a sit down and show something, you wouldn't need as much possibly front end. You know, like a presentation takes time. You got to make a PowerPoint. You have to break like a lot of times people make a project and then it's like, oh, would you present on that? Well, I didn't keep track of all the things I did along the way, so it's a lot harder to make a presentation than to like, hey, here's what I did. If you have questions, I kind of show you stuff inside versus doing an actual presentation. Again, I have no idea. I've not been on a committee to try to get people to present, so I have no idea
And I
if
think
that would help.
And I think that's a personal choice on how you do a presentation. I think the traditional form of a presentation is PowerPoints, but there are some people who do them who don't have any PowerPoints and who are just showing what they did. And when you sign up to do a presentation, how you choose to do a presentation is completely up to you. It's not a requirement to have slideshows or anything like that. And I mean, we were a couple weeks up to the conference still trying to fill the last slots for presentations and that. It's hard, and that's why it fills with a lot of vendors. And then people don't like that it's a lot of vendor presentations.
One thing that when I was in the Nebraska GIS LS is they had a time for poster presentations. And so whether that they were targeting more for students, but that also could be for us for a lower initiative or, you know, just a digital, you know, projector up and just talk about a web app you've made, a story map for 5 minutes. And, you know, looking at what Pete had mentioned of, you know, a short presentation, maybe we have a lightning round section where we have, you know, talk for 10, 15 minutes or, you know, 5 minutes on something. And, you know, that might be a way. And so, you know, do we do, you know, does it have to be an actual presentation? Can it just be, you know, a show and tell, you know, a discussion, a moderated conversation? You know, there are other opportunities there that we can do.
We've done
that
those
may,
before, Greg, and they were very popular. But yeah, 10, 15 minutes and
yeah.
show your app, show your whatever.
And looking at what, you know, Randall put on there, you know, what their struggles in the Minnesota side is, you know, how, you know, they're looking at doing a tract for the private side. Is that maybe something we do that we try to make a one day where there's a little more private focused?
Sometimes having a theme helps.
Mhm.
And I know we've had themes for like Survivor and all of that, but like a theme of that the conferences focus on, like, you know, dealing with a pandemic or dealing with infrastructure or dealing with something else.
Mhm.
I know one of the things that has been discussed, at least with some friends of mine and I, is doing like you bring in your data that you're having some troubles with, you need to automate something or whatever, and people that like me that can Python script will write you a Python script that'll do most of what you need to do. Trying to find people that can do that is tougher, but then I don't know if you want to do like an hour. I don't know if you can get through a whole bunch of people in an hour if you got a bunch of people, or if that's just you know, find somebody and um, sit with them for a while and do their thing.
Yeah, Jeff, I know we've talked about that in the past, and I had talked to some folks about the feasibility, and the struggle with that one was staffing an area like that, right? It's not just staffing in terms of I need people to volunteer and commit certain blocks of time to certain areas of expertise, but it's finding people who also have that area of expertise to staff it. And that's the struggle with that one. And we're totally open to it if you have people who are willing to sign up with areas of expertise that could commit to chunks of time being in a room for anybody to walk in. The other struggle with that one is we all know the rabbit hole you can land down when trying to script something.
and that may be a question too we ask. You know, maybe can Esri offer some support, or maybe there's a a vendor and that we can waive the vendor fee for, and say, hey, you know, we can look at trying to make that as an exchange too.
Yeah, you have to be careful with the vendor fee stuff, because once you do it for one, a lot of them are going to want it. And we've struggled with that discussion in the past. So I don't want people in the chat thinking that that's something. A complete side note, I know there's discussions in the chat about the dates of ITAG. I just pulled up the information and I'm pretty sure it's June 17th to 22nd.
17, 22nd, okay.
This is Erin from CloudPoint. We do something very similar in Illinois with Python, and we've talked about doing it next year for Arcade as well. And so, to Nicole's point, if you have the person, we've got somebody who does it for Python that will sit there for 4 hours and you can come in and chat with them. I know we could have somebody available to do that for Arcade at the conference this year. So I will volunteer someone else for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that you're here, and because I'm sure you're going to be hearing from me very soon.
Good. Well, I'm here and available.
Yeah, hi, this is Matt from Story County. You know, I've been helping off and on these conferences over the past 20 years, and it's like the education is always the hardest, I think. I mean, it's always hard to find people to fill stuff. That's when you have to reach out to people you know or you've heard somebody doing something, because not a whole lot of people will, you know, come forward. So it's always a struggle, and it probably always kind of will be. And I guess I support the thought of sending out you know, a survey or something to find people's input. And, you know, one thought, or at least something I'd like to find out from this survey is, has this kind of conference become too big? Like, is it too daunting for some people? You know, I mean, should we just have like a day and a half type of thing? You know, I know that it's that certain length because the vendors pay a bunch of money and they, you know, they want to have face-to-face time for so many days. And I don't know, maybe it's too big for some people. I don't know. Or maybe we do iTag plus another thing that's smaller, you know. I don't know. I guess, you know, because those lunch and learns are really popular. And that's another thing. Maybe we also like live stream some of the presentations, because I know people from the private sector, it's hard to justify someone to come to this for 2 or 3 days. You know, things are a little bit different in the government sector, I guess. But um, I don't know. I think it's a good idea to send out a survey. It's probably gonna be really long because there's a lot of stuff we want to find out, and hopefully people will respond. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Anybody else have anything else to share about the conference survey or things in adjacent? Seeing none, hearing none. All right, we'll step down to bylaw committee. So Ben Wagner cannot be in attendance here. 502 is vending. Okay. Thanks, Pete. I think, yeah, right now we have nearly 2 full days available at the conference. Like, yeah.
It's currently set up the same way it always has been, and we're locked into the number of days based on the current contracts. So
Yeah. Thanks, Nicole. Yeah, kickoff for bylaw committee update. So Ben can't be here today. He was gonna kind of lead the kickoff. We had talked about it back in, I believe, in July, looking at things. We talked about last spring in April of making some adjustments to our bylaws, and particularly the committees section of it, and clarifying some of that. And so that's what Ben was going to kind of lead the charge and circle the horses on that again. Here, he's not able to make it today. We'll send out an email here with some additional information on that here in the near future. For those of you who have thrown your head in the hat, Ben was going to specifically reach back out to you. I don't remember who that is off the top of my head, so that's what I have. If you want to help, please reach out to Ben or myself here, and we'll make sure that you're on the list. That's what we're going to focus on for that. Any questions around that? So stepping down to IGIC election nominations. Last year, we were a little tight on doing election nominations and to get that done and processed. This year, vast majority of the board is, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, isn't vast majority of the board up for election here?
Everybody but you and Nicole.
Yeah. So with that being said, we want to make sure we advance our nomination process here. Last year it was way too tight. So ideally, we'd like to get everybody's nomination probably shortly after our business meeting in April, which is on April the 10th. And so as you think about right now, for all the board members we currently have on now, if you want to run again, let us know. Josh, do you want everybody to send it to you, or do you just want everybody to send it to me?
I don't know. Both, I guess.
Both. Okay. Yeah. If you want to continue being in your board seat, just email Josh and I. I'll put my email in the chat as well in case you don't have it. I'll make sure that you're on and get that list squared away here. If you're thinking about running and applying, we do, we have 4 business meetings, quarterly business meetings a year. And then we generally have, sometimes you're generally in a committee or you're helping out on some ITAG stuff as well. So the level of involvement is only a couple hours a month at best for activities. Every position, including the vice chair, will be available. So that's what I have about that.
No, I think vice chair should be up because I'll
Yeah.
become chair. So vice chair should be a position that's up.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, so after the new board is set in the summer, then the secretary, treasurer, and vice chair need to be reelected from board members.
Yeah. Thanks for that clarification, Josh and Nicole. Okay, anything else? So ITAG 2024 conference update. So I've misspoke the dates on, or mistyped the dates on there. It's June 17th through the 22nd. We'll get that reflected in the meeting minutes here. There is an initial kickoff meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. I just got the Zoom invite here late last week. The theme of this year is going to be national parks. And so that's going to be the overall branding through the conference. The taglines yet to be determined. Jesse and I forget who's helping Jesse.
Andy McGill.
Yep, and Andy are a little behind right now, but they're rapidly catching back up. So we'll kind of kick that off tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll finalize the tagline and a few other key details here and start to share out information. So shortly on that. So for those board members who have partaken in the past, I can gladly send you over the Zoom invite. For those who want to help partake, please let me know. I'll get you included in on that.
And specifically those who are wanting to work on the conference committee. That's what this meeting is for. So this would be either, there's many things, but it's registration and prizes and the education tracks, decorations.
I just wanted to jump in quick. 'Cause I did food last year and I kind of dropped the ball a little bit on people who have different allergies or just don't want to eat like meat and stuff. So if there's anybody like that, especially if you're really like have strict dietary restrictions, please try to come on or at least get on that food committee so we can make sure that everyone's getting, because we had some people who had to get food themselves last year and we don't want that. So
Yeah, we need a vegetarian on the food committee for sure. Step up and represent people.
Okay. Anything else on that? Oh. Thanks, Z. Yeah. I know Nicole and I will probably end up, or Nicole and I will probably work on the GIS education track as well. So if you are thinking about doing presentations or having an idea, or you get an email for either of us, please give us your thoughts.
Yeah, last I looked, my name was next to heading up the prizes committee and the education track. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think Jesse has already stuck me there, so we'll see.
Yep. All right. Stepping down to the next update from committees and representatives. I don't see Amy or Debbie on. I do know they are looking for, ideally it would be nice to get another member now that Robin stepped away. So if you do want to help out on the education side, please talk to Amy and Debbie, Amy or Debbie on that. Jeff, do you have any update for the 901 Council?
Sure. All the counties continue to meet the next gen benchmarks. For those that don't know, I think this last Hub Helper toolbox is the last one. You can just upload everything into a file database and upload it. And also now this month, the 999, which is the ignore me kind of exception code, is back and functioning. So if anybody has any questions, I'll try and answer them. Okay, I think that covers it.
Right. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. State of Iowa, Patrick.
See if I can get this right. Couple of things. One, the census boundary and annexation survey opened up. Some of you may or may not be involved in that. If you're at the county level in some cities, a couple years ago, the state of Iowa and census signed an MOU that allowed the state to submit boundary information on behalf of cities and counties. We have not undertaken that process fully. We're kind of in a hybrid mode of doing that. We have submitted on behalf of some counties, and any cities or counties that currently have the consolidated BAS in place, we do not intend to undertake that. But what our process is to take all the annexation data that has either come through the city development board or through the Secretary of State's office. There's sort of two paths for that. I won't go into detail for related to that, but that annexation information gets aggregated by the DOT. We work with the DOT to submit a change file on behalf of the state and related resolutions related to all those annexations and in some cases severances for cities in the state. So we'll be filing that by whatever the deadline is. I believe it's March 1st, something like that. If there are any cities or counties that need assistance with that, let me know, or if you're in question, I do have a few that reach out and do that. The whole reason behind this is that the state has an annexation process that's in Iowa code, but the process did not necessarily, or did not guarantee that data was actually making it to census. And we discovered this prior to the 2020 census, that a lot of times annexations were filed and but that data never made it to census. And so we went through the BCARP, the Boundary Quality and Reconciliation Program, prior to the 2020 census to update any boundaries that needed updating prior to the 2020 census. And out of that came this MOU. And like I said, we're doing it sort of in a hybrid mode, just because of the sort of lack of staffing to be able to do this on a statewide level. But the other thing that it does do is does allow us to update county boundaries and, or I should say, submit county boundary changes and submit state boundary changes through this boundary and annexation survey. It's kind of a lesser known piece of that, but that is part of that. And we have the DNR, Wisconsin Department of Management. We have over the last couple of years working on reconciling some of the boundaries along the Mississippi River. It's not that there is not a boundary, there is, and but it's not very well documented in code by either one. So it's just about agreeing where that boundary is and reconciling those two basically GIS data files by each state. That has actually not gone too much farther in the last year, and I think both it's on censuses and Iowa and Wisconsin's agenda to have some more discussions about that in the next year. Doesn't change the legal boundary by any means. It's just reconciling that boundary of Wisconsin has a file that says this, Iowa has a file that says this, census has something different. So it's just sort of reconciling those GIS data files. Same thing with Nebraska. We consistently have court cases, specifically with hunting and fishing license, about somebody not having the incorrect license and fishing or hunting in the wrong state. And anybody who, there are some, any cities or counties on the western side of the state know that there is some Iowa land on the west side of the Missouri River, and there is some Nebraska land on the east side of the Missouri River. And if you look at a lot of the commercial providers, they do not have that boundary right. The assumption is that the Missouri River, in a lot of cases, is where that land differentiation happens, and it is not necessarily the case. So that's kind of that. Census BAS. There's a LIDAR committee that meets occasionally. We haven't done it a whole lot just because we have LIDAR available for the whole state, either through ISU for a lot of the derived products, or it's available on the national map, downloadable as tiles. I may jump out of here, unfortunately, in a second or two, because my VPN just expired. So if that happens, just let me know. but one of the things on our agenda this next year is to develop another LiDAR plan that will take us into planning over the next several years, looking at LiDAR refresh. All right, am I back?
You are, Patrick.
Got it. Okay, so the LiDAR, planning for a LiDAR refresh in the next couple of years. We don't know when or how that will happen, but we're trying to get it ahead of that this time. Coming up with developing a plan that follows the 3-step specifications, looking at current funding mechanisms that are in place at USGS and other federal agencies, and then also giving the opportunity for either counties or cities to hopefully buy up things during that process if wanted. There's a better mechanism now that was in place than when LiDAR was first, or our Iowa LiDAR was reflown again in 2019, 2020, 2021. Some different ways to do that money exchange from the local or state level up to the federal level. Because of the way things have happened in the past, we've never run the what was the GPSC process, or a grant process or contracting mechanism in the past, just because we didn't have a full-time person to manage that contract. And USDA kind of did that the last time. I'm not going to say that federal agencies will again pick up the tab to fly LiDAR. I don't think we should ever count on that, which is why we're trying to develop this plan to see if we can, either the state or local government can actually, hopefully participate and at some level in that process whenever that happens. It may be 5 years from now, maybe 3 years from now. I'd really have no idea at this point. I know all we know is that USGS is really trying to go for sort of an 8-year cycle, maximum 8-year cycle on LiDAR collects. Let's see, broadband. We're finishing up the contracting for our broadband grant, which would have been our 8th round of broadband grants. That was about between 140 and 150 million dollars. We're wrapping up the contracting with that, and we'll be finalizing that, and then starting our deduplication process for BEAD, and that's the big broadband grant at the state level. That is, I think Iowa has about $415 million that will be released sometime this year. And the way that works is basically there's that $415 million. We have a number of, I don't know, probably 150,000 locations that are eligible according to availability data reported by providers. And we have to go through the basically a deduplication process that says, hey, we already have either funding available or funding allocated for this particular location, where provider has an obligation to meet those through an existing grant at the state level, but there's also a number of other federal programs. There's RDOF, Reconnect at the USDA level, RDOF and CAF2, and another program called Enhanced ACAM, which is geared towards local providers. If anybody wants to know more details about these, go ahead and reach out. The big thing that why I'm kind of giving you all this broad or this background on this is that with the BEAD program, there is a challenge process. And that challenge process will probably open up sometime in the next, our proposal has not been accepted yet. I mean, it'll get accepted. It just hasn't not been officially accepted. Once that happens, there are a number of things that'll happen. The first thing that'll happen is there will be an announcement for that. The next thing that will happen is a broadband location challenge that is open to, it's not open to state government, it's open to providers to do, it's open to nonprofits and non-governmental organizations. I can't remember if it's actually open to cities and county government. I will have to get back on that. But the reason I'm saying that is that if during this challenge process you see that there are a number of locations that are look like they should be eligible and not report it, or that a provider may be reporting a location as a served location, meaning greater than 100 megabits per second download and 20 megabits per second upload. And reality is that you have enough evidence or a group of citizens has enough evidence to say, no, this is not the case, you can make a challenge and then make those locations eligible. And I don't know, there's no, there is a formal process to do this. It will be announced, it will be at some point in the next several months. But it is an opportunity to, especially in those rural counties and rural areas, to make a difference. If you know that a provider may be saying, yes, we provide this speed and this service, but really does not, it might be some way for you to maybe not formally work with your city or your county to do this, but at least work within to help support those efforts in some way. I can't really give you any more information than that, just because it's not an open, if the process is not open yet. But I'm just saying that they're, given the expertise on this call, that it might be an opportunity for people to work with the community in a sort of an informal way. That 415 million, obviously it's a lot of money, but it's still not enough to actually get the job done to probably serve the whole state with fiber or serve the whole state with a fixed wireless product. We're just trying to get the obligation of the grant is that these unserved locations. So those locations that do not currently have 25 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second upload are priority locations, obviously. And our grant obligation says that we must serve those locations first with this $415 million. Currently, there's about somewhere between 50 to 60,000 locations across the state that do not have that level, that 25.3 level of service. And so that's our priority. After that, we can use that money to do anything that is greater than 25.3, but less than 120. So those are called underserved locations. So the unserved are less than 25.3, and the underserved are greater than 25.3, greater than or equal to 25.3, but less than 120. And there's probably another 75 to 100,000 locations at that underserved level. And then obviously, if you live in rural Iowa, you know that in some cases the reporting, it might be that it's greater than 120, but reality is that there's no way you can get that type of speed. So challenge process will be open at some point. Like I said, this might be an opportunity for some people in the call to help with things, especially in rural Iowa. Let's see. Any questions about broadband? It's got to be at least one. All right. Well, if you have a question, you know how to get a hold of me. Like I said, watch for the challenge process. ocio.iowa.gov/broadband, or I think you can also get to it on broadband.iowa.gov. We'll get you to that place where you can watch broadband news. And the only other thing is challenge you again to present, if you're on the board, to present that, submit an abstract when that comes out for ITAG to do that. But if you're thinking about it, why not just do it again? Submit something for Magic as well, and present there as well. It would be great to see some more Iowa people, both on both at Magic and at ITAG. So that's it.
Thanks, Patrick. So shifting down to lunch and learn, Micah unfortunately could not make it today. She had a meeting that came up, but our next lunch and learn is next Wednesday on the 24th at noon. She sent out an email earlier this week, and that's led Schneider Geospatial. I was going to kind of lead that, talking about into layouts, Arceus Pro layouts. So please attend that. More importantly, though, Micah would like to kind of step away from coordinating the lunch and learns, and so we're looking for a volunteer to kind of lead that. In particular, that's reaching out to presenters, gathering that brief information, and sending out that invite for our membership. So we have lunch and learns except for I think June and July months. So I think we do about 10 of them a year. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So if that is something of interest for you, please let me know. And I will pass that along to Micah. Is there anybody interested in that or has a question on that?
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
It looks like our next meeting is April 10th, and that's Magic in Omaha. I don't know if that
Okay.
makes a difference or not. I'm going to Magic, so I don't know if I'll attend, but just wanted to give you a heads up.
Okay, well, I thought I had flipped it
Oh, wait,
for
time
Magic.
out. Hold on. What day are we on?
I thought Magic was the 15th through the 18th.
You're right. I wrote it on the wrong day. Have a great day.
Yeah,
No, just
I'm
ignore
doing it.
me. Just ignore me. It's fine.
It's all good. No,
It's a day.
I appreciate it. I mixed up on the. It's all good. Hey Patrick, you're unmuted. Just letting you know. And yeah, so I advanced from our last meeting. I advanced our IGIC meeting here a week sooner to April the 10th. For that.
Yeah, so I must have had the old one down as the 17th at 10 a.m. So I didn't change it. That was my bad.
Yeah, I'm working trying to get it get all those dates on the website as well, so that people can see that and push out the invites here, as Josh has kindly made them already for us. So with that, with Magic, they do give us the opportunity to do a $250 Friends of Magic, and I believe we're gonna need a vote for this, or I guess it would be best that IGIC spends $250 to do a donation or a contribution to the Magic. And would that be okay that IGIC pays that? Is the question to the board.
Yeah, so IGIC has done this for many Magics now, and it's $250. puts our logo and link on the website, in there, any of their, on, you know, any of the app stuff that they get, that gets created. It's essentially just a sponsorship thing. So, but it is due February 1st, so if we are doing it, I need to get it in. So I am asking for the board to approve $250 Friends of Magic. I'll take any questions.
I'll make a motion to approve the funding to Magic, or yeah, to Magic.
Is there a second? No, Brandon seconds. All in favor, either say aye or put it in chat.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Thanks, everybody. For those if you haven't noticed, as we head to wrap up here, I did advance our meeting. Will be Wednesday, April the 10th. That is a week before Magic. For those that will be attending Magic, I am planning on being there. Sarah will be there. Patrick, I believe, will be there. Penny, I didn't say Penny. At least are the people I'm aware of that will be there. So if you do want to attend, join us. Feel free to reach out to any of us. Otherwise, is there anything else for the good of the group, for the good of the meeting here today?
I just wanted to bring up one thing. Now that Paula has stepped away from our group, didn't she used to, and help me recall this, but I felt like she used to do some kind of either funding for a gift basket or something, either to Magic. Am I incorrect in this?
I think that was just a one-time thing, but I think Magic came to us and asked about that.
Okay.
But I have not heard anything in regards to that.
Okay.
But yeah, but that was something that did happen, but I think it was a one-time thing.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for asking, Travis. I know with Magic being in downtown Omaha, it's not very far from Carter Lake, Iowa. So if we want to be punny, we can do something for that. So, otherwise, I don't have anything else. I appreciate you all attendance here and time and energy. We'll have some other email conversations here coming out over the next month. So, with that, I'll accept the meeting to adjourn.
This is Travis. I move to adjourn.
Thanks, Travis. Is there a second?
Second by Josh.
Second by Josh. Appreciate it. Thanks all for your time. We'll see you on April the 10th.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Penny.